The Weaver of Hollow Sighs. Espera had forgotten the sound of her own mother's voice 3,000 years ago. In the silence of her obsidian tower, time did not flow. It pooled like stagnant water. She sat amidst mountains of scrolls and jars of preserved echoes, her fingers tracing the edge of a world that had long since moved on without her. To be immortal was not to live forever, she realized, but to be a graveyard that never closed its gates. She survived by weaving, not with wool or silk, but with the shadow thread, the stolen essence of human experience. Every few decades, when her own soul grew thin and transparent, she had to find a new story to consume. She would take the vibrant colors of a mortal's life and stitch them into her gray heart. It was a beautiful, necessary cruelty that kept the madness of the eons at bay. At the edge of the ironwood forest, where the trees bled silver sap, a boy named Kalin stood before the witch's gate. He was young, but his body was a map of failing health. Every breath he took sounded like dry leaves skittering on a tombstone. He didn't come to Espera for a cure. He knew the cost of magic was always paid in blood. He came because he was terrified of being forgotten. When Espera appeared before him, she didn't look like a monster. She looked like the sunset, gorgeous, cold, and ending. Kalin fell to his knees, the damp earth soaking into his clothes. "They say you keep what others lose," he whispered, his voice cracking like thin ice. "I am dying, and I have no one to leave my life to. Please, take my memories. Store them so I don't vanish into the nothingness." Espera felt a pang of something she hadn't felt in centuries. Pity. It was sharper than a needle. She reached out and touched his cheek. His skin was fever-hot against her ice-cold palm. "If I weave you into my tapestry, Kalin, you will feel every second of the extraction. I will pull the gold from your first laugh and the salt from your final tear. You will become a hollow shell. Do you accept the washing away?" She led him to the heart of the tower, to the loom of ghosts. It was a terrifying contraption of bone and star iron, its rhythmic clack-thud sounding like a giant's dying heartbeat. Espera began to hum a melody that predated language, a sound that made the very stones of the tower weep. The air grew thick with the smell of ozone and old dust. The horror was beginning. Kalin lay on a stone plinth, his chest heaving as the ritual took hold. As Espera began to pull, a scream died in his throat, replaced by a radiant, terrifying void. A bright, jagged light erupted from his forehead, a memory of his mother's kitchen and the warmth of a summer afternoon. It looked like a shard of broken glass, beautiful and sharp enough to cut the soul. "It hurts," Kalin gasped, his voice becoming more distant with every thread she took. Espera didn't stop. She couldn't. She was drinking his life, and for the first time in an age, she felt heavy and real. She saw his first love. She felt the sting of a scraped knee from a fall long ago. Each memory was a needle pricking her soul, filling her with a vibrant, agonizing humanity. As the final hours of the night bled into dawn, Kalin began to fade. His eyes became dull, like marbles lost in the dust. He could no longer remember his own name, or why he was in this cold, dark place. The horror wasn't just the pain, but the emptiness, the terrifying realization that there was nothing left inside him but the wind. He was a book with every page ripped out. Espera finished the last stitch. She stood back and looked at her new cloak. It was no longer gray. It was a riot of Kalin's colors, sunset oranges and the bright blue of a clear sky. But as she wrapped it around her, she heard them, the voices. Every memory she had ever stolen began to scream at once, a chorus of thousands of dead souls trapped in the fabric, begging for the end. She looked down at the plinth. Kalin was gone. Only a small pile of gray ash remained where a boy full of dreams had once stood. Espera fell to her knees, sobbing tears that were as black as ink. She had his life, but she was more alone than ever. The weight of his joy and his grief was a burden she would have to carry for another 1,000 years. Vespera walked out of the tower and into the new morning. The world was loud and terrifyingly bright. Behind her, a trail of shimmering footprints followed her into the mist, the ghosts of Kaelin and all the others, tethered to her forever. She was the weaver of hollow sighs, an eternal monument to everything the world had forgotten, walking toward a future that would eventually become just another thread in her shroud.